everyone. Welcome back to another episode of TNC Time. I am your host, Tiernan McCarthy Kenny, and we're going to go through a little lightning round. So, Jonte Porter being banned. Obviously, some of these topics, including this one, I talked about in the previous podcast that I filmed yesterday, actually. We were filming on April 22nd. But I'm going to go about it a little differently. So, tough few weeks for the Porter family in general, right? First, you have Jonte Porter, Michael Porter Jr.'s brother, obviously, getting banned from the NBA, gambling. He was gambling under associates' accounts, different things like that, telling people insider info. Not great. Then you also have the youngest brother, Kobe, who just got arrested for killing a woman while driving intoxicated. So, unreal. I think he also got 6 to 7 years in prison, or jail. I forget which one it was. I thought the ban was fair, though. So I know, like I said, I think it was the Otani issue. That also came up. Everybody thought he was involved at first. Getting pressure. Gambling's reaching new heights. More accessible. All right, we need to make an example. There you go. I think that's how it went, and I think it was the right move. Longevity in the NBA versus the MMA sport. Not much data on the UFC side specifically. But it's a thing I've been thinking about and discussing about a bit. It just doesn't make much sense to me because MMA is obviously the most grueling sport, dangerous. Probably, it's the most physically dangerous sport you can imagine or we have. So why is it that I feel like NBA players have more debilitating injuries more frequently? MMA, you can walk out with brain damage, a broken leg, a torn rotator cuff, a broken arm. But somehow these guys still show up more. And that's also when you're talking about it too, because then you're like, oh, well, the NBA has such a longer season, all this and that. Well, it's like, yeah, MMA fighters only fight a few times a year. But in between that time, they're still doing all the things. Arguably, worse. They probably have more damage during their training over time than actually in their fights because, one, it's longer. Two, they're doing things sometimes you don't even normally do in fights. Jiu-jitsu as an example, guys who don't really get on the ground, you're still training that during the off-season or your off-season, quote-unquote. And it's a martial art based on breaking your joints. And then even if you're doing stand-up, you're hitting bags and stuff like that, you're literally bashing your joints into a hard surface. Sparring, same thing. So there's never really a break. And they get injuries all the time, but it never seems like to the point that like you see all these dudes just pulling out of fights. It doesn't really go like that. So what is it? Are NBA players wimps? What's the real issue? Why aren't we seeing MMA fighters not being able to fight as frequently? You know, we're here getting on our knees for LeBron here, 39-year-old, and he's been fantastic, longevity great. But there's also Jim Miller, who's older than him and still fighting at a high level. So I feel like we should be getting on our knees for that guy. All right, I don't get why this. I don't know. I don't know why this is not actually a talking point. This is probably like a perfect ESPN talking point. I don't get it. Strickland Costa UFC 302 co-main event. I can't wait for this. Strickland's probably my favorite fighter. Probably shouldn't say that, but he is. I just love his style, and I think this fight is going to be a stand-up banger. I like Paulo Costa too. Both these guys, incredible striking ability. Probably going to be similar to a Whitaker and Costa fight back in, February? Except Costa's now not coming off a major injury and multiple infections. So that's good. He's coming in fresh. Strickland's going to be super hungry after losing the belt and not getting the rematch he deserves. So I think it's going to be a really fun fight. I mean, Costa has 9 total finishes. Only one of those is submission. And if you know Sean, he does not want to get really on the ground. So they're just going to be a fucking barn burner. They're going to be going at each other's throats. Strickland's going to obviously apply pressure 24/7, put him on his heels, and hopefully put him out. And I was pretty surprised because FanDuel actually has Sean as a minus 215 favorite. I did not see that coming. Costa is currently plus 164. So I'm a bit surprised, but nonetheless, I think Strickland will get it done. Can't wait. This is a polarizing topic it comes up every few months. Excuse me, probably like few years. I feel like every 1 to 2 years we're talking about it, and it's women's salaries, WNBA salaries to be more specific, right? But that's actually, I mean, that overarching generalization there is probably more accurate in terms of how frequent it comes up. But the WNBA salary debate all the time. And recently it came up with the WNBA draft, more specifically Caitlin Clark, because she is so good that it was kind of weird because I feel like they don't usually show it in a graphic like that, but there's a graphic that came out on Twitter, publicly posted, and it showed her 4-year rookie deal, which was $338,000, excuse me. Which if you average out over the 4 years, it's like 84.5 every year. But then I kept seeing 76, so it probably is ascending. And then obviously, I'm sure once she's eligible for like an extension, stuff like that too, it's gonna be. I mean, she's gonna get paid more. But it's frustrating because then they compare that salary to the first picks of the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, etc. And it just doesn't compare. The markets don't compare. Point blank, period. There's nothing really to say that. There's nothing to go around that. I mean, you literally have Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, back in 2018. He told the Associated Press that the WNBA was losing $10 million a year. So it's losing money. So what is that? That's 6 years now that you're in the clear. And that's who knows. Who knows if they're even like making a full profit. They might be profiting every year, but in terms of the long-term investment, they might not be profiting 100%. So slow your roll there. Caitlin Clark has been in the league. He's a major surge, and they're going to try to capitalize on that the best they can. They're already trying to expand and get bigger arenas, which is a little scary. Because it doesn't seem like they're bringing in much revenue. But then if you see that, it's like, how do you expect them to pay their players like NBA players? Are you insane? They have 12 teams. They have literally less than half of the amount of teams the NBA has. They have less than half of the amount of games, 40 compared to 82. It's what do you expect here? Like, all these people that complain about this, do you watch those games? Do you watch the Indiana Fever play? Like, do you watch the Aces play? No, you probably don't. You probably don't go to those games. You should. Put your money where your mouth is. Seriously, if you're gonna make these accusations at people too, because we're gonna get into it a little bit, it goes to a much higher degree than just the salaries. So if you want to talk about that, the shoe deals, this is what started the race debate. Everybody's throwing the race card now because Caitlin Clark, like Wemby, came into the league a superstar. I mean, obviously she hasn't played yet, but she's up there with like a LeBron-like prospect from the rip, Wemby too, and they got a Nike deal. Wemby did the same thing, okay? The popular players get the brand deals, the commentator positions. Candace Parker, like, that's what happens. So, and then people got upset, throw the race card, and are saying, Asia Wilson. Well, what about Asia Wilson? She doesn't have a sneaker deal. And then people are obviously replying, well, nobody knows who that is. And then their rebuttal is, well, why did she have a statue? And it's like, okay. She's got a statue because of how she meant to that franchise, not because of her popularity, okay? It doesn't work like that. And honestly, I didn't even know who Asia Wilson was. And I pay attention to basketball. And I know generally some of the WNBA players, I didn't even know who that was. And it caused a huge uproar. Now everybody's is turning on Caitlin Clark, saying that sports publications were making her, a white woman, popular just so they can take the shine away from black players like Angel Reese, and then now with the shoe deals from Asia Wilson. It literally burns me to my core. You have a generational talent right here who might literally, like Steph Curry, changed the entire game of the WNBA, okay? Brought more people to watch the women's NCAA tournament over the men's. When has that happened? When? I've never sat down and be like, hey, when's that Iowa game? When's that UConn game? No, I never have done that. Okay? It's frustrating. The race, and you don't even realize that you're judging Caitlin Clark on her skin. You're saying, oh, because she's a white lady. But then getting upset and then saying in the same breath that, oh, they're doing this because she's a black lady. You're judging people on their skin, which is the whole thing that you're critiquing other people that you think they're doing. So it's like, it makes no sense. You're contradicting yourself. You're doing the same thing to another person. It's ridiculous, and there's no logic behind it. Zero logic. So I apologize to Caitlin Clark for people being fucking morons here and being a pity to your party, honestly. It's like, okay, can we be happy for anyone? Like, she's changed the game. Number one pick. All these expectations, all these brand deals where she's making a lot more money, all this stuff. It's like, can we just be happy for her? Jesus. Same thing with Wemby. We're happy for Wemby. The sky's the limit with that guy. And same for Caitlin Clark. So please, let's throw this bullshit in the garbage. I'm sick of talking about it. Seriously. It's ridiculous. Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Where do I start? Let me just say, I will never understand the people who think boxing is more entertaining than MMA. It will never make sense to me. I literally couldn't get past the first round. I fell asleep. I know there were some knockdowns. There were 3 knockdowns on Devin Haney. Garcia took the dub. I mean, there was even in the first round that he threw a left hook. Ryan Garcia hit with a left hook. He got stunned. You thought he might have been going down. But it was kind of like watching NBA a year ago. It was just a stop after a stop after a stop. I've never seen somebody spam the clinch buttons in my life. Who wants to watch that? You throw a straight and a left hook, and then you clinch, and then you clinch, and then you clinch. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're throwing 3 punches, and one of you guys are clinching. It's stupid. And I can't watch it, man. I can't. Masvidal versus Diaz might be the last one. If even that. I don't know. Bare knuckle boxing is probably the thing I could get behind. Just because it's more violent. But it was frustrating, man. I couldn't get past the 4th round. I couldn't do it. But what I wanted to talk about most was Michael Chandler's argument, which is probably the mainstream media's argument now that you're going to hear this a week and 2 days after the fight. And I swear to God, I did write this in these notes. I put this on everything. Ryan Garcia wants to be the villain as a terrible actor. That's the overarching theme here. I think that's what happened. I felt like it was obvious during the last stretch leading up to this fight, and especially during the press conference. There's a lot of those things where he's just saying random shit to people about, where's your mom at? Where's your mom at? She's probably in my DMs, right? She's probably looking good, right? And then the beer stunt during his weigh-ins. I think he was trying to embody his inner Conor McGregor, and it turned out to be a little more of a Jamal Hill, where I just thought they were kind of ridiculous, and he was saying ridiculous things, but then you also could tell he didn't believe it, you know? He didn't really believe it. It seemed unnatural. It didn't seem right. So I think he was trying to be a villain, just didn't succeed. Regardless, congratulations for Ryan Garcia. He won a huge fight against a massively favored opponent. And he actually bet him on himself. He bet $2 million on his win and won $12 million back. Plus, I think for the fight and pay-per-view, all that stuff, I think he said he racked up around $50 million just for one fight. So, I mean, kudos to him, man. Making a lot more money than me. So, you're doing something right. Now we're going to end this off with a little Bulls talk here. Not a great Bulls season. Little disappointing. Finished 9th in the East, under 500. 19th in offensive rating, 21st for defense. 20th overall net rating, 22nd in points per game. 16th in opponents' points per game. Kind of an odd year in terms of rotation throughout the year, and not even totally due to injuries. Obviously, there were some injuries, but it wasn't totally like that. Io got garbage time in the beginning of the year after being an integral piece last year with pretty much the same team. Then flipped by the end of the year and was kind of old Io, so it was weird. Andre Drummond deservingly got substantial minutes when he was kind of getting garbage time too, kind of same situation as Io in the earlier in the year. Patrick Williams with a season-ending injury after being a starter, big minutes guy for them since he was drafted, which I don't totally agree with, but it is what it is. Torrey Craig kind of shot up out of nowhere. I didn't even know he was totally on the roster. Excuse me. Got the seltzer coming up. And he took over that Patrick Williams role. Then you got Dalen Terry, who came out of the woodworks, the shadows, and became a real rotation guy out of literally nowhere. That guy was he was riding the bench. I didn't think he was going to get a minute during the season, unless it was an absolute blowout. And I'm a little half on it. There's some things I like from him. There's some things I'm like, but he's a rookie. Javonte Green coming back into the mix after a 10-day and being a great role guy like he was last year. I'm a big fan of his, especially transition buckets, good defense. Seems like a good locker room guy too. I don't know what the situation was there. I didn't really look into it that much. I imagine he wouldn't pass on them because he doesn't really have much leverage at all. So if it's really the Bulls, I'm like, what are you doing? You should have kept him. He could also be a trade piece too. I don't know. If you're lumping him in with a Levine or somebody like that. Then Julian Phillips going up and down with minutes. Then, of course, Zach LaVine got injured and kind of became untradeable. And then you also got another year without Lonzo. And the highlight of the year was pretty much Kobe coming out of his shell, I think, for the most part. Next year will obviously be the real test to see if it continues and he can be consistent, if this is really him. Super fun to watch, though. At least we know that we can flourish without LaVine on the floor. I'm happy about that, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because it shows you that you can succeed without him, but then it's also not looking too hot on him in terms of trying to find a potential trading team to trade him to, right? Because then every coach is going to be like, okay, well, his team, a lackluster ninth seed, is doing a lot better without him. And I think they were even lower than that. They might have landed like 11th or something like that, but it's just immediately started doing better. Not great. So little playoff success again, obviously. Won a blowout game with an amazing 42-point performance by Kobe. But then, of course, lost to a Jimmy-less Heat team where we kind of looked like we just learned to play basketball 5 minutes before the game started. So not that great. Kind of a disappointment, like I said. But we do know that we need to work on some things, right? We know we need a more solid rotation. We know we need to clean up some of the turnovers. Ranked third in the league for offensive turnover percentage. Not great. Then we also got to zero in on Vooch's game if we're keeping him, right? I think I really do think he's a little underrated to a degree. I think people shit on him too much. I think he's a great third banana between his soft touch around the rim and his rebounding, especially paired with Drummond as a backup. But the thing with him, he takes way too many threes. He shoots 29% from the field or from deep. Why does he have the green light with all these threes? I don't get it. He'll take several a game. They never go in. It's ridiculous. I know everybody feels like they need like a Brook jumper, especially as a 5, like they need to be a stretch 5. You don't, okay? Really, it's only for the people who are coming into the league now, okay? If you just hone in around the rim and you have a spot, okay, man? Pick and rolls, things like that. You don't need to be a pick and popper. Frustrating. Then obviously we need another guy. We're not contending for a chip with this squad. We're just not. Kobe would probably need to go Brunson level, which is not even a thought. Now, DeRozan first said a few days ago that he loves the city of Chicago, the organization, the team, etc. But then in his post-game press conference, he said, I hate losing. The next time I play a game, it will be my 16th season, and I ain't trying to play 25 years. My stance on being here is still the same, but I just want to win. It's great that his stance is still the same, but it's a little unsettling, just due to the Bulls' track record, and who knows when they're going to win. So I really hope we don't lose him during the offseason, but you never know. He's going to be a free agent. Hopefully they can extend him, or if you're going to trade him, honestly, if you're going to trade him, you're not going to get that much back, so you might as well just blow them up, right? And I think they got to start making moves, man. You got to get somebody, or you got to drop all of them, okay? Because we're just going to be in the same rut, like the Hawks, like all these teams, like, and just doing the same thing every year. Like, you're just going to the play-in, getting knocked out. Kind of like Brooklyn, like teams like that. You're just going to the play-in, getting knocked out. You do it again, get knocked out. Got to make some moves. So we'll see. It's kind of sucks too, because it's on the off season. There's a couple free agents, but nobody's really eye opening. Yeah, Clay, Harden, Siakam, LeBron. Like, obviously those are great players. Like Harden, LeBron, Siakam, like they're good. But they're all most likely getting extensions. So it's like, if in terms of like plausibility, it's not that eye opening. So like, I don't really see that. I'd love Siakam. I think he could probably mesh really well. He's not really the guy we're looking for. We kind of need like a Superman type guy. Still would take him, but I don't think it's gonna happen. He's had a pretty good season with the Pacers, and they have some potential. So the next step would be finding a suitable trade. And again, no real plausible trades come to mind. I don't even know. I'd probably have to do a real deep dive. But what I do want to do is completely shut down the trade talks right now. I did a deep dive on him earlier in the season. It was not impressed, with his splits really at all. And then his performance in the play-in was fucking awful. He didn't really gel with Murray at all. He seemed like he was kind of a headache to everybody else. Murray was visibly getting pissed off at him during the game. So no thank you. I'll take Kobe White. That's about that. Get traded to the Spurs. Make the West even harder. I don't care. Maybe we can go to an 8th spot after that. So all in all, like I said twice, a little disappointing of a year, but I have faith that there will be some offseason moves made, and we'll be back on top eventually. We'll see. So that's the end of the pod. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.